Have you ever wondered why there are just some people you don't click with, whether that be in work or in your personal life amongst friends and family? Ultimately, we all are different, and that is absolutely fine, but it doesn't always feel fine when our interactions with one another are difficult or problematic, or just those that we do not enjoy at all. In a work context, we are highly likely to be placed with individuals not of our making, not of our choice, on a regular basis. When you apply for a job, you apply for that job, that company, but you don't necessarily know what you're selecting in terms of teams or people, whether that be those that you work with, your peers, who your manager is, or those that you lead yourself. So an amazing tool that I have the privilege of being able to utilise in my coaching practice is a tool called DISC. And DISC is a personality profiling system, much alike to those that you may be familiar with already, such as Insights. It uses colours and it groups people into their preferred style of communication. And I have to stress the real emphasis on preferred, because within the system, of which there are 4 styles, we have a tendency to occupy and access all 4 areas, but it's just going to be, there's going to be some more than others. So I'm going to bring this to life a little bit with some food items here, because I'm into food. I love it. So I'm hoping this visual exercise will make sense. So ultimately, what have I got here? I have got 4 items which can all be categorized as food. I've got an apple, I've got some maple syrup, golden syrup, not maple syrup. I've got some butter, and I've got some flour. Now, on their own, they are all valid. They can all work. You've got an apple, which clearly you can eat. Golden syrup, pretty tasty, depending if you've got how sweet your teeth are. You've got butter, which you can use by itself, and you've got flour. Flour maybe not so much, but just work with me on this exercise. So on their own, they all have merit and they all can operate individually. And you may have a personal preference for one more than the other. I'm not a big fan of apples, actually. Maybe controversial, but I'm not. I do, however, like all the other items. Now, each of these behave differently. They're made differently. They work differently. They sit in slightly different groups in themselves. You've got sugars, you've got fruits, you've got fats, and you've got carbohydrate. But bring them together and you could make something absolutely amazingly delicious. For example, an apple crumble or an apple pie even. So this is very true of us in teams and individuals. You may have someone who is very much like an apple, and someone who is like the butter. Ultimately, they work great by themselves, but when you bring them together, they're even more brilliant. But you have to know how to bring them together. Now, in all essence of cooking, you have to understand how to prepare the item, how long to cook it for, what conditions to keep it in. And in baking especially, it can be an exact science. So a recipe is really useful. And that is similar to how the DISC report works. It is a simple assessment which you complete that tells you what your personal preference is. And then it gives you an understanding and an insight into how your preference potentially interacts with those around you in the other groups. And those 4 groups are D for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for compliance. And they all have a strength in their own right. And at times, if it's not understood how to work them together, they can clash and they can cause problems. And that's often what you will be experiencing in a work context or personal, when you're just not getting on with somebody. And it doesn't matter what you do, nothing seems to work. Understanding your DISC preference and understanding more about those that exist around you will enable you to understand how to flex and how to adapt and how to get the best out of others as well as yourself. Because clearly, the more you're cohesively working with other people, the better you feel about yourself, the greater results you will have, and it starts to repeat as a pattern. If you're interested in learning more about DISC and the personality profile report, and how it can support you to improve your relationships, both at work and at home, then drop me a message at lisa@gripcoaching.co.uk, or you can visit my website, gripcoaching.co.uk, or even drop me a message here. I'm always happy to have a chat.